Hey Jeff.
Hey Meesha.
Welcome to episode 13 of the North Atlanta Real Estate Podcast with Meesha Rawal.
And Jeff Ahi.
And we've all been in the same position. We've all spent countless hours scrolling through Zillow, looking, dreaming, and practically painting the perfect house for our family. Jeff and I were outdoor knocking today at Woodhaven off of Old Milton Parkway, and we met so many families who are daydreaming about buying a house.
Absolutely. I think we ran into 3 or 4 that asked us basically questions like, what does it take to buy a house? But I think 3 out of the 4 said, how much do I have to save up? How much money do I need to actually buy a house? And so, sort of let's cover that and sort of the whole process from kind of beginning to end. And
let's say I, as a first-time home buyer, want to buy a house for $500,000.
Yeah.
How much should I be budgeting for?
Probably the easy way to say it, you're going to be your down payment. And so that's going to be whatever loan program you have, 3.5% for an FHA, maybe 3%, 5%, 10% for conventional. Maybe you put down 20 or 25%,
okay,
no
so
PMI.
let's say I want to put down 10%.
Yeah, so $500,000 house, you're going to have $50,000 for that.
Okay.
Somebody needs to pay your closing costs. Mm-hmm. That's going to be, say, 2.5%. The seller, you can negotiate so the seller can pay that up to lender allowed limits. They're a little higher for FHA and a 20% down conventional than they would be, say, for a 3 or 5% conventional loan. And so you need to then have that, and then you need to figure for your escrows, about for your taxes and insurance, probably good to budget just under 1%. Maybe just use 1%, easy number. So you got $5,000 for that. And then you've already put some earnest money down. So that's a credit to you that comes back to you at that time. So if you put down $5,000, that will be a credit that you get back that goes towards these costs.
So for a $500,000 house, I put down 10%, $50,000, the 2.5% closing cost of $12,500, the inspection, let's say $600, the appraisal, another $600,
and then you have your prepaids. Now the thing to keep in mind, the seller could, if you negotiate it this way, could agree to pay your closing costs and your prepaids in many circumstances. And so there, we're talking about $17,000 basically, could be paid by the seller. Now, that's going to be in negotiations. It's going to depend on how long the home's been on the market, how much competition you have. This is where a good agent's going to help you negotiate it to the best situation for you. Yeah.
Excellent. So I've come down to the grand total of $67,000 for a $500,000 house. Does that sound?
With a 10% down payment.
With a 10% down payment, and with us paying all the closing costs and the escrows.
And keep in mind, if you did that as a FHA with 3.5% down payment, now you're talking about knocking about $35,000 off that amount. So, all of a sudden you can take that $67,000 down to 32, and then if you get that seller to pay that $17,000, now you've got that down to $15,000. Kind of, it kind of depends. And so that's why, again, if you just get an agent that you can rely on, they can help work through these numbers based on your financial situation to get everything that is best situation for you, the home buyer.
So if I'm a first-time home buyer, what would be the first or critical piece of advice you would give me?
Yeah, I would say without question, number one thing you have to do is go and get a pre-qualification. There's 2 different levels. Pre-qualification is kind of a verbal. You're talking to a loan officer. You give them some verbal data. They'll ask you some questions. How long have you worked there? How much do you make? What are your debts? Then they'll give you a maximum amount that you could qualify for. So let's start with that. The second thing would be a pre-approval, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, and sometimes you could reverse engineer it, and you could tell the lender that, hey, I know I could be approved for more, but I just want to spend $5,000 on my mortgage. So give me a pre-approval letter that reflects that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because one thing that you can always keep in mind, just because a lender says, here's your maximum, doesn't mean you have to spend that much. And so sometimes it's really prudent to spend less than you
Yeah, you could be approved for $1 million house, but you don't have to buy $1 million house.
Absolutely.
Now, when it comes to pre-approval, what are the things that a lender typically looks at?
Sure. So that's the one thing when you're talking about the next stage, you've done your pre-qual and then you've determined, you think you can find a house that you like, then pre-approval is the next step. And what that means is now you find a lender and they do full documentation on you. So they're going to ask questions like, okay, we're going to want 2 years tax returns. They're going to want 3 months bank statements. They're going to want to have, are you a W-2 employee? You know, they're going to go get proof of employment. And so there's a whole bunch of things, as well as some documents for identification. And you fill out this application, and then they're going to go and process that. So what you're doing now, it's a whole nother level, so that when you go shopping for a house now with your agent or by yourself, I would use an agent, we'll talk about that later, but then you are seen as a much more serious buyer than a buyer that just has a pre-qualification letter. It makes you a much better position when you negotiate.
So you've got the pre-qualification, you saw what houses you like, then you go to the lender and get a proper pre-approval by submitting all the documentation. And you've already budgeted for a house, and you know, so let's say your monthly payment is going to be $4,000, and you just have to make sure that that is okay with you, because that would mean that you may have to cut some corners on trips, on let's say ballet lessons, and you have to be okay with it, because you know, we have to be very clear that a mortgage is going to be for 30 years. It could be 15, it could be 20, but it is a long drawn commitment.
Yeah, that's right. And for many people, but not all, but many times your house payment's going to be a little higher than the rent you might have been paying, especially if you're coming out of an apartment. That's going to be generally be the case. So yeah, absolutely.
Now, when you start looking for a house, like you already touched upon it, it's important to have or do it with an agent, a buyer's agent.
I think it makes a lot of sense, because our job is there to protect, as a fiduciary, our client. We're representing them and their best interests. And so, you know, it's our job to guide them through the process and give them the information along the way to protect them, help them negotiate the best price to get all the way through to the closing table.
And I always, you know, tell families, I have so many clients who are like, hey, Meesha, we're moving to XYZ state. Maybe let's say it's Texas, maybe it's North Carolina. Could you help us buy a house there? And I'm like, well, an agent is typically local, you know, so I love helping my families when they're moving to the area. I would love to help them buy a house in North Carolina, but I don't know anything about North Carolina. I don't know anything about Texas. So I would be their well-wisher. I could help them with connecting them with lenders, but I'm not a local expert. So I always feel like get an agent who is the local area expert.
Yeah, and one thing I add, I mean, especially if you're looking up in that North Atlanta market, I don't know that I would pick an agent that doesn't have a podcast, especially, right? I mean, that's a critical qualification, I'd say now.
Great plug. And talking about great qualifications, you've been in the business for about 35 years. So the depth and breadth of experience someone like you brings to the table is unmatched.
Well, you're also too humble, Meesha. I mean, we both sold hundreds of homes, and, you know, we do want to protect our clients. I think that's one of the things that I could say about us. We don't have commission breath.
Oh, I know that you really like that term, and I think that's a very interesting term. Tell me more about commission breath.
Well, commission breath, probably the best way to describe it to folks is I had someone that I just met with this weekend, and she was telling me a story that she got rid of an agent that she was working with, because this agent, they bid on a home with multiple offers, and the buyer drew a line in the sand, said, I don't want to spend more than this amount. And the agent kept pushing and pushing and pushing for her to increase her offer. And she said, well, look, I don't want to. And she felt so uncomfortable, and she knew this agent wasn't working for her. This agent just wanted her to get a higher amount bid so that the agent could get paid. And that's what we're talking. The agent was more focused on their commission than the buyer's safety and buyer representation.
So now you've got the pre-approval, you've got a great agent as an ally. Now you go look for a house. You have to make a very educated decision about what area you want to be in, and it's a good idea to go look at the schools, look at the commute. A lot of people just look at the price of the house when they'll look at buying. And now we have families who bought houses in Dawsonville, and now there's a return to office, and they are struggling with the commute. So I feel like buying a house has to be very balanced, not just the price. You have to look at the location, the condition of the house, and also a long-term feel for the place.
Yes, you're so correct. And one of the things that I think a good agent brings into this process is when we're working with our clients, we don't just go through the home and say, this is a beautiful kitchen, isn't this an amazing backyard? That's the kind of stuff you see on TV. What we go in and make sure our clients see is, hey, look, These windows, the original windows, they're single pane. That doesn't mean they won't work, but you need to understand what the costs are if you decide to replace them. The roof's 15 years old. It usually lasts, depending if it's single tab or architectural, it's going to last 20 years or 25. This is the age of the systems. You're going to have drainage problems over here. So we're trying to help our clients understand the home even before they make the offer, because as we'll talk about soon, the inspection process can be quite costly, and you don't want to go inspecting a home that is obvious to see you're going to have potential problems with. And then, I think that's also what a good agent will bring to the table.
Yeah. So we're like the bad cop.
We are. At least I am. I mean, I know you are too, right? We were trying to say, we're trying to say, yes, this is shiny and this house looks beautiful, but don't overlook these items too.
Yes, because I always give importance to what my clients are saying, and they already know what they're looking for. They know that they want a bedroom on the main level. They know that they want to be in this neighborhood. The subdivision has a pool. What they can see is that there was, especially first-time home buyers, that there was a possible leak that is dry now in the bathroom upstairs that has been addressed, has not been addressed. There could be possible termite damage. There are drainage issues, soil erosion. So things that are generally overlooked by someone who is enamored by the look and the feel of the house.
Yeah, one thing, and I think it was one of the I was covering for you when you were out of town. I showed one of your clients, and we saw a house, and I remember climbing over the bank and down behind the house and saw the retaining wall had substantial damage. And if there are things to look out for.
Yeah, so agents with commission breath will not.
Oh no, they won't. They'll just hope that the inspector overlooks it and nobody really says anything about it. And next thing you know, 5 years later, we have a $20,000 bill.
Fingers crossed situation.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we're not the fingers crossed agents.
No.
Now you found the house of your dreams, and your agent has made it happen. We've made an offer, and we've gone through, deposited the earnest money, and we are waiting for the house to be inspected. And as good agents, we've already pre-screened the house.
Right, absolutely. But that doesn't mean we did a full job, and so you absolutely need to get a professional home inspection. So, Meesha, I know you work with a lot of great inspectors too, and tell us a little bit about the types of inspections that you recommend your clients to have.
So, if we're doing a new construction, then I always suggest paying that $195 for a pre-drywall inspection, so you can see what is behind the drywall before it comes up. And if it's a resale, then definitely get the whole house inspected. If the house has a basement, then the radon inspection, definitely the roof inspection. The sewer and the septic, the house is on a septic, then definitely get the septic inspection done. And these days, the sewer inspection is something that is recommended for older houses. But I believe there was an incident in your neighborhood, which is fairly young.
So right, we had a property that was just in our neighborhood, and the neighborhood's only 6 years old, and that home already had roots growing into the sewer line system. And so, it was thousands of dollars to get this corrected. And so it is very important that, you can't overlook these things, or at least don't be surprised if you don't do that inspection, know that this kind of stuff can happen.
Yeah, and then you also have to get the house appraised to make sure that the bank is lending you the money. So just to recap, as a first-time home buyer, just be mindful of your down payment, the inspection expenses, the appraisal expenses, and we haven't touched closing costs yet.
Yeah, and maybe if we can, let's go back with the inspections. Let's just give some simple context with dollar figures on some of this. So if you're doing a home inspection and you're doing maybe a small property, a townhome, you might be able to get it for $400 or $450. But if you're doing a larger home that we'd find out in this area, you could spend $500 to $1,000 even if it's a large home with a basement. Appraisals are going to be, say, $500 to $600. A radon inspection, maybe $200. You're going to spend a septic inspection is been a little while since I've $700 maybe, something like that. So you got to have these costs budgeted, because if you make an offer on this home and you do all these inspections and then you terminate the contract, you don't get that money back. That's money spent to contractors. And so that money's gone, and when you find the next house, you're gonna have to do the same thing over again.
Yeah, and I always look at inspections as an investment into your house, not as a wasted expense, because a good home inspector will be able to find issues, they're not there to compliment your house. And the home inspector is not coming in there to ooh and ah about your house. He's only there for one purpose, is to criticize the house and make a laundry list of items that are wrong with the property. So they will find items that could be monitored or would need to be taken action on immediately.
Yeah, and then like your question was, and what are closing costs? You know, that is a great topic. And so what you get with closing costs, depending on your loan, you got to figure it's about 2.5% of your loan amount for closing costs. Those are things that title search, attorney's fees, title insurance for the lender, intangibles, tax, recording fees, all this stuff bundled up is about 2.5% of your loan amount. And then you also are going to have to budget for escrows. And so what are the type of escrows, Meesha, that we typically find in a sales purchase?
Typically, you'll be looking at taxes and insurance. So there is a term called PITI, which I think every home buyer should be aware of. It stands for PITI, stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Okay. And then the TI is what the escrow will, for the most part, cover. It'll be the taxes and insurance. And taxes is something that your lender has absolutely no control over. Yeah. So whenever you do get the closing cost information, just ask them for closing costs and prepaid so you get a more holistic number for budgeting.
Yeah.
So the taxes and insurance, taxes are fixed. The insurance is something that you could shop for, and you could bundle it with your auto to get a discount, or you could talk to your lender and ask them to make recommendations for the insurance companies.
And it's always a good idea to shop around with different deductibles, because with insurance, the deductible, higher deductible, obviously going to drive your premium down. So balance that to your risk, and always a good way to save a little bit of money. So I guess now we've talked about the process of all the costs in the closing. Now let's say we're just about to go to the closing. Let's say our closing day is tomorrow. What should the agent and buyer be doing if your closing is tomorrow?
So it's a two-step process. You need to schedule your final walkthrough, and you need to go over your ALTA or your settlement statement. Now the final walkthrough would be for making sure that the house is in the condition that you last saw it. And so let's say you make an offer on the 1st of September, it would take about 30 to 45 days to close on a house. So let's say we close on September 30th. On the 29th of September, you'll go through the entire house to make sure that there were no accidents that happened, that the house looks clean, that everything is as you saw it, and all the items in the personal property bill of sale, or that it's not like they said that they'll leave the refrigerator, now the refrigerator is missing. So little things like that could get overlooked, or errors of judgment were made.
But is this a time when you can go back and say, hey, look, they moved the bed. I didn't notice there was a little scuff mark on the wall.
Yeah, tricky situations for all parties involved, because the seller was like, well, your inspector didn't catch it. And you're like, well, there was a giant bed on it. So just have to navigate through situations like this. And that's where a good agent comes into play.
Sort of grease the wheels and get everybody happy. And
yes, absolutely, towards the closing table. And now the second part of heading towards the closing table is the settlement statement, or the ALTA, is when you make sure that all the numbers on the settlement statement are exactly as you anticipated. Because at the end of the day, whatever is in the closing statement cannot be changed after the closing is done. So just make sure that you go through all the margins and all the itemized.
I mean, and the agent can help you go through that, and certainly at the closing table, the closing attorney will help explain it if there's something you still have questions about.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Meesha, for that great wrap up. I think we gave everybody a great show today. So if folks have other questions that we didn't cover, I guess please call either Jeff or Meesha, and we'll be happy to help you, and look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, bye-bye.